What's up, y'all? It's your Intrepid Songwriter, chronicling my adventures as a songwriter, because seriously, who does that? And I'm here to help you get on the fast track. Today, we have a guest on our show, Mr. Dan Schiller. How you doing, Dan?
Doing good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Dan's going to tell us all about his musical innovation, his music tech, and new ways for us to get paid. That's why I knew you'd love to talk to them. He's got a company called Busker. So we're going to start out by saying, what is busking? What does that mean?
Busking is a term for being a street performer, like somebody playing, on the L or on the street with their guitar case open, or maybe they got a hat out. It can be really any type of instrument, any type of case, any type of jar or a cup or whatever you want. It's playing for free on the street and passing the hat around.
Okay. So
and
all of us that perform, I'm sure, are familiar with passing the hat around at some point in our careers, whether you had to do it, at a lounge, at church, at school. If you're a musician, at some point you had to pass the hat.
And you've had to play for free and maybe ask for a little extra, right?
Absolutely right. That's one of the things I actually teach people, is that when you're first starting out, you're going to have to play for free more than you want to just to get yourself out there. Then you got to get yourself established. And many times you can't get top dollar starting out the way you want to. You got to build up to that.
It's true. And it applies to a lot of, areas. A lot of people intern. Music is no different.
Absolutely. All right. So tell me, how long have you been in the music industry?
Well, I've been playing music since I was a little kid, since I was like 4. But I've been started playing professionally, actually, in high school a little bit. I used to sub for my piano teacher in his wedding bands. And then I studied music in college and was writing and playing in my own bands. And then in my 20s, I was playing in live band karaoke in the Collective in Chicago, playing 4 to 5 nights a week with the karaoke band, earning what we could, passing the hat around when we didn't earn enough.
Right. Wow, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, so then tell me about your company. Tell me about the idea behind what you came up with.
Yeah, so after, playing professionally and playing in the bars and doing that whole scene, I ended up going to law school and trying to see if I couldn't take myself to the next level from, a business standpoint. And along the way, I got pretty interested in Spotify and streaming and the way that I could listen to music with friends and sort of really expand my my library of what I was listening to and genres. And Spotify was only charging me $10 a month. And for some people, that's a lot. But for me, it really wasn't that bad, considering how much I was getting compared to how much I used to have to pay for music if I wanted to get as much as I'm getting now. So a friend of mine...
That's a very important point, because that's the root of their appeal.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I used to work at Dr. Wax Records on Chicago, or on Clark, downtown Chicago. And thank God I was there, because I was able to get CDs on a discount to keep up with my appetite.
Right.
But I was told about this band called A Sunny Day in Glasgow. Somebody had shared me their song on Spotify, and I thought they were great. And I went and found their albums on Spotify. They had 3 of them, and it was all part of my subscription. And then they were playing a show at the Empty Bottle in Chicago last December, and it was a $10 show. And there was 3 bands on the bill, and it did pretty well, but, how good could the split be at a venue of that size, definitely under 1,000 people. And I went to their merch table afterwards, and there was nothing for me to buy, because I didn't need CDs, because I have streaming, and I don't really buy T-shirts anymore or stickers or anything like that. But I really appreciated the band, and I kind of felt a little guilty that I had complete access to their entire album, and really the only money that they saw from me for my enjoyment of their band was whatever cut of the $10 split 6 ways amongst the band members was. And that just didn't seem right, and I wanted to show them a little extra appreciation. So I went up to them at their merch table and I said, hey, I want to give you a tip because I think you're great and I don't want anything in return, and just here you go, have it, enjoy. And they were a little taken aback by it, I got to be honest. I don't think they were used to that type of interaction, I should say.
Most people don't respond that way.
Well, right.
People are
Yeah,
like, thanks for
exactly.
the show.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe I just felt a little guiltier than most because I was just sort of acutely aware of the great deal that I've been getting.
Mhm.
And meanwhile, a few years ago, I was producing a documentary film about the banana industry with some friends of mine,
Mhm.
and we needed some finishing funds to get it sort of over the hump. So we turned to Indiegogo and um, managed to raise, a good chunk to get everybody paid. So we paid our composer,
Mhm.
her wage. We paid our sound engineer. We paid our video editor, our voiceover artists. Because that's important to me that people get paid for their work.
Mhm.
And if the money can be found, and it really just takes some effort to get it found. So then I was looking at, that model and how it works for musicians. And to me, the only way that a musician can really work in the crowdfunding landscape seems to be, hey, we're going to make an album and we need money to go in and pay for studio time or engineer or something like that.
Mhm.
And then I look at this band Sunny Day in Glasgow, and they've already got their album. They're already out, but I still needed an excuse to be able to give them some money because I like them and I wanted to show some appreciation. And there was no way to do that. Then I thought back to those karaoke days when we would pass the hat around at shows, and we would come back. And sometimes it would be pretty well full.
Mhm.
And so I just decided I was going to marry these ideas of passing the hat around, but doing it in an online format,
Mhm.
and take out any sort of requirements of needing an album or a specific project or a goal. Why can't it just be, hey, we exist and do you like our music? Or hey, we exist and maybe we need a little extra money for promotion, or maybe we do need to make an album, or maybe we just want to go in and do some overdubs on one thing. You're not going to do a Kickstarter to go and raise money to do vocal overdubs.
Right.
But just operating fees, basic. Businesses have operating fees. Musicians, if they're out there being professionals, you're a business. You have operating fees. And since it's just harder and harder to find revenue streams these days, but it's cheaper and cheaper to be a fan.
Mhm.
My idea is maybe, just maybe, some fans out there understand that this is going in the wrong direction,
Mhm.
and a couple dollars at a time to your favorite band isn't that big of a deal. We
Right.
do it all the time. We tip waitresses and waiters and everything. Why not tip our musicians?
That's a great idea. And, I like a lot of what you said because it has a real world anchor. Because the upshot of all this free content is, as we can already see, quality of content tends to go, further
Yep.
down. And even though we have, almost no barriers to entry, it still only works for the people at the very top, the top
Right.
5%. So,
Right.
and where can we find this online?
So the website right now is buskeronline.net.
Okay.
I'm also on Twitter at buskeronline, and I got a Facebook page, Busker. You should be able to find it all. It's spelled Busker.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a musician, basically you can go to the site and click artist sign up and create a profile. You'll submit a profile just like you do for any number of sites, whether it be, Kickstarter or OkCupid. We're filling out a lot of profiles these days.
Right.
And then,
So true.
and you can upload, any media that you want to the site. You can create a bio, a little, a couple lines on why maybe you're on the site, a couple of pictures. And then we also allow you to offer rewards or merchandise, however you want to categorize it, but sort of at a pay what you want scale. Similar to like how some certain bands and comedians release albums, and you can pay what you want. You can download it, but pay what you want for it. For us, we'll probably ask, maybe like a minimum. Maybe you have a download and minimum of $1. But if you want something in return for your tip, not just a straight, here's $1, here's $5, here's $10. If you want something in return, our platform allows you to offer that as well.
Okay.
And then just like any of the other crowdfunding sites, it's pretty much your profile and you're in charge of it. You can do whatever you want with it. And then you're in charge of dispersing any merchandise or gifts that anybody wants to tip for. And then at the end of the month, we look at however much people have given to your site, and we cut you a check every month.
Great. Now, how much do you take from that? What's your cut?
My take is 5%, and then the bank takes about 2.9%.
Okay.
So I think right now Kickstarter is at 7. Indiegogo is at 7, unless you get a nonprofit funding and you can get it down. But not all. Some bands actually are nonprofit. One of our artists currently signed up is in fact a nonprofit. So if you donate to them through us, you still would get your charitable tax deduction or whatever. But Busker would have nothing to do with it. We're just merely the conduit.
Okay. Now, are there any upload limitations, like file sizes for the pictures or for the music? Does it have to be WAV, MP3? What about that?
So for the downloads, I think we can handle both MP3 and WAV. Mm-hmm. I should say I do have some partners who are more on the tech side, and that's more their bag. And as part of the profile page, when you sign up, we have recommendation dimensions and whatnot. Okay. But as far as uploading your content just to the page, mm-hmm. We can handle pretty much everything that's out there. Vimeo, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Reverb Nation. Mm-hmm. We can build the widget for anything. I should stress, we're a very, very, very young company. We just launched officially about a week and a half ago, really on a soft launch. We're more in the beta stage. So at this point, the company is pretty manual, and we're really looking forward to working directly with the artists who sign up and sort of gauging what they like about it and what they don't like and what they need and don't need. And mm-hmm. we're making those adjustments sort of on the fly right now. Mm-hmm. And so that's sort of part of the growing process and just seeing what people are interested in.
Okay.
For example, something that I didn't see coming, I sort of thought out in the early stages, but I certainly didn't see going there this quick. Our first actual active profile that was out using it in relation to a performance was actually a music festival being run out of Pilsen in Chicago last weekend. And it was a free music festival for Latino artists who come from like rural areas. They all sort of came together. They even brought in some artists from Colombia. Mm-hmm. And the entire festival was free, but they took donations at the door. But with Busker, they were also able to take donations from people before, after, and during the festival online.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right, so you can have people giving to you while you're out there playing. You don't have to wait until after your set or whatever.
Yeah, and and that type of innovation out there is stuff that we're still really working through. Things like you could theoretically add your concert at your merch table if maybe you had an iPad or an iPhone or some sort of smartphone that could use one of those Stripe scanner deals. Mm-hmm. Where people can maybe swipe right into your Busker, or we're looking into these QR codes.
Right.
So really, I need to do some more research on that tech side, because I've sort of been like, I just got to get this built, and let's get musicians money, and like, oh, now I have to learn all this tech stuff too.
Right.
It's business. It's work. Everything is work.
No, you can't get around the work component. That's for sure. But yeah, making sure everything is up to date in terms of your tech capability, because there's so many different options, and you always want to be able to tell people, yes, we can take this. Yes, we do this. Yes, you can swipe here, whatever. You don't want to tell them, it's like, old school when you walk into a store and they're like, we don't take credit cards. And there's still some places like that now. But really? Seriously? Really?
Yeah, exactly.
So I got you. Okay, we're going to switch gears just a little bit. I want you to tell me, what is your favorite piece of music equipment? Like, out of all the stuff you've used in your life, what do you, equalizer, preamp, keyboard, what do you like the best?
Fender Rhodes.
Oh.
Yeah, I bought my Fender Rhodes when I was 13 years old at the Mammoth Music Mart at Old Orchard Mall for $350 of my hard-earned cash. And that thing stayed with me for over 2 decades.
You don't still have it? Please tell me you still have it.
You know what? What ended up happening was, I don't know if you ever play one of those, but they have, these tines in them, and the tines break.
Yeah.
And after a while, after 2 decades of replacing tines, and I'm not very fix-it guy.
Mm-hmm.
I am terrible with, a ratchet set or whatever. And it was really heavy. So the maintenance on it was the difficult portion of it. And I ended up finding some, a more modern keyboard that could approximate it.
Uh-huh.
But hopefully with Busker, the company can be, a little successful. I can go and buy myself another Fender Rhodes,
Okay. Because those things are classic, man. We should never get rid of them. Although that is, one of the more common complaints because they are extremely heavy. And they are, they're durable to a point. But then after a while, you pretty much have to replace them or like overhaul the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I'll say this specifically with the Fender Rhodes, I had the stage model. There's also the suitcase model with the built-in amp in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that one's even cooler than the one that I had. I couldn't afford that one at 13. So when I can afford a new stage Rhodes or a suitcase Rhodes I can put in my living room, that's definitely on the grocery list.
Well, there's really no downside to having a Rhodes piano. That's the thing. There's no downside.
That's actually how it was crucial to my learning piano when I studied. My piano teacher had a Rhodes as well, and he had a Rhodes and a Grand in his space.
Uh-huh.
And we would do jazz, and he would accompany me on the Rhodes while I was playing on the piano, and then we would sort of go back and forth with chords and leads and solos and things like that. So the Rhodes has kind of always been a special instrument to me, I'd say.
Cool. Now, describe for me your creative process when you're writing and when you're playing. What's going on up here?
Yeah. Well, obviously, it's best if it just happens naturally.
Explain that. What does that mean to you? That doesn't mean the same thing to everybody.
Yeah, I've always been an improviser and a writer, so I can sit down at the piano or with the guitar and probably play, a whole lot of nothing for 10 to 20 minutes, just sort of messing around and exploring the instrument. I should say, I studied music theory in college, and I studied a lot of the way that I learned songwriting and sort of playing. I got really lucky, and I couldn't recommend this process really more to anybody higher. Sorry for the ramble there. My piano teacher told me when I was 10, because I quit piano when I was 8 because I didn't like classical music, and I wanted to play. And I would watch MTV, and I would go to the piano, and I would start playing around on the piano and like try and emulate what I had heard on VH1 and MTV.
Right.
And my parents found me this teacher when I was 10 who was okay with doing rock. But the deal was that we could play any song that I wanted, but I had to figure out how to play it. And he would help me. And then he had perfect calligraphy penmanship, so he could notate everything. So when it was done, I would have this original sheet music of whatever song that we decided to do, whether it be, we did Traffic, Los Parker High Heel Boys, we did Led Zeppelin, The Rain Song.
Wow.
And so we would spend, sometimes upwards of, 2 weeks to a month figuring out how the song worked. And in doing that, I really kind of learned theory through the back door.
Okay.
And then when I started studying theory more in earnest and studying jazz, the way that I can sort of view the instrument, in that sort of geometry way, mathematical way that theory teaches you. So for example, when I'm playing and let's say I'm in D and I've got this cool progression going with D and G and A, I start thinking from a theory perspective on what are the other notes in this universe that are going to work. So I'll maybe test those out. And maybe when I'm playing a D chord, I'll move that bass to an F sharp and see what happens there. So as soon as I can get something initially just sort of from the heart and the soul out there, then I start to nitpick it with that theory back end where I'm looking at inversions and I'm looking at root notes and I'm looking at dissonance and what might be interesting. And then you just kind of keep at it until something fun happens, right?
That's really, really cool. No, that is definitely more of a theoretical approach. Like, what are my tools in the toolbox given my key or given the relationships, as opposed to some people compose by, how does a melody feel to me? Sometimes I start out with a time signature, like I want a song in 2. So that's where I start, and then I build everything based on that. So that's really interesting. I taught theory when I was in college. So I had to help people work through, understanding the difference between music on paper and music in your hand.
Right.
And how you translate the paper into the sounds that you want.
Right. Yeah, I think it's crucial just to learn it at least a little bit, get, you don't have to be writing sonatas or anything like that, but it's just, it's an instrument,
Right.
It's, doctors use instruments, musicians use instruments. And it's cool that you can sort of marry the two of just, speak from the soul and then, refine it with the mind,
Right. Well, it's the art of making the science look like an art.
Yeah, right.
So now
the hardest part for me is lyrics, though,
Really?
Oh, yeah, because that's the type of thing where it's a little more work than it is. Musicians are so lucky. I keep on saying this. We're lucky because we get to sit down and just start playing and just making things happen. And when you're writing lyrics, the gratification isn't quite as instant as it is, playing music or, strumming a guitar or something like that. So maybe I got a little spoiled just sitting down and playing the piano. So when it comes to writing the lyrics, it's a little more tedious and, less instant gratification.
Well, I'm a wordsmith, so I studied writing lyrics in particular.
Oh, cool.
I wanted to be sure that, you have to find your own unique voice.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with something like a song, it's not the same as poetry or, anything else that you would deliver the words in. So it is a lot of work. I have something called a rejected lyric sheet. So I have all this stuff I didn't say in this song because I couldn't fit it in, but maybe I'll use it for another thing. But yeah, it's a lot
that's
of work.
a really good idea.
No, yeah, it's a lot of work. Now, I tell people, always keep your rejected lyrics because you're going to use them somewhere else. You spend all the energy trying to come up with them, maybe just not for this tune. But now tell me this, do you have a vault? Do you know what I mean by that?
I don't know, but I probably do. What do you think?
Your vault is a whole bunch of songs that you've written and recorded that are all finished that nobody's ever heard that you may or may not release.
Oh,